5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to this special holiday show of Culture Clash, episode 240. It is our Thanksgiving special, and you know what? We're going to have a lot of fun here and some weirdness. It's a holiday special on the Fandom Podcast Network. You never know what's going to happen. For instance, one thing you can count on is Mr. Kevin Reitzel joining us for any special holiday special, because Kevin loves his holidays, and I know for a fact he loves his Thanksgiving dinners.
Yes. That reminds me, I need to check up more on the Hallmark special and see what kind of Thanksgiving, shows that they have there. But of course, we got to watch our WKRP turkey drop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there another Thanksgiving movie that you try to watch?
I know you're not a Charlie Brown fan. I am, so I always like to watch Charlie Brown Thanksgiving.
Isn't Planes, Trains, and Automobiles also during a Thanksgiving thing?
Yeah, but I think that's him trying to get back for Thanksgiving.
Right.
There's not a lot of big Thanksgiving movies. I know we got that new horror film Thanksgiving that just came
Right.
out.
Here's Dave Mattingly. He says, I'm thankful for comic books, cosplaying, and role-playing games. Those are great choices there. We're going to touch on a few of those there later. What's going on? What's up, freak? There he is. Gobble, gobble. Good to see those guys in there. That's awesome. You know what? There's a Friendsgiving movie that I've been wanting to see. I have that one somewhere. I found it on video. But, Thanksgiving. Well, WKRP Turkey Drop. That's probably the more famous one, I guess.
Yeah, I got you kind of hooked on that tradition. If I'm not on in the early days of the podcast network.
Yeah, watching it, and then I went and bought just that episode. I didn't buy the whole series of WKRP, but I went and bought that episode, and so I have that one to watch. It's classic.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this episode. It's gonna be just kind of a kickback, relaxed episode. But one of the things we wanted to do, and besides, we hadn't let it out of the basement of antiquities here at the Fandom Podcast Network in a while. That gets temperamental. The Magic 8 Ball finally decided enough was enough. We'd been ignoring it for too long. So it kind of busted out with the mashed potatoes, the sweet potato pie. It threatened the dressing even, and we don't want to overcook the dressing. So
ask a question.
Magic 8 Ball, are we going to have a good Thanksgiving dinner?
It is decidedly so.
Good. I mean, heartburn ahoy. But so the Magic 8 Ball is here, and it has asked us to say, you know what, maybe we haven't given enough thanks, and we're going to give our thanks to things in fandom on this episode. So, again, with the Magic 8 Balls, in no particular order, we're just going to have a little fun and give our thanks to things in fandom. So hopefully those of you who join us in the chat or join us later on will tell us what you're thankful for as well. And you never know. We might have the occasional guest pop in on this. These holiday things get a little weird around here. But Kevin, before we get into any of that, we got a little business to take care of. Some things we need to address, and one of those things is the fact that it might be a holiday week, but there's still news. So
Let's news.
Dave says that Spider-Man 2002 is a Thanksgiving movie.
There's a very strange Thanksgiving scene in that film. I'm not going to call it Thanksgiving.
I got to rewatch that again. I don't remember that.
But I will agree with this. Addams Family Values is a Thanksgiving film.
Thank you. And actually, that's one of those sequels that I think is better than the original.
I would agree with that. But we do have a lot of news to cover, Kevin. But you know what? The most important news is it's what's happening on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. We got some stuff.
There's some stuff. Kevin, you want to tell them about this particular thing that's on the Fandom Podcast Network? Because it's been a while since we've seen it.
Yeah, the Hair Metal Podcast has returned. I put a call out on our Hair Metal Podcast fandom group there. If you're a fan of 80s metal, 80s to early 90s metal. Please check it out. We'd love that. And I put a call out asking for guests, and Michael Simmer hit me up. He's from Pittsburgh. He now lives in the Philadelphia area, and he's a huge hair metal fan, and he's also a teacher of music as well. So he's got some cred. He knows his stuff. So I had him on as a guest, and he kind of came up with an idea that we kind of ran with. 80s rock metal bands that should have been bigger. And we put that into the hair metal group. Got some great responses. I found some lists, and we picked our top 5 hair metal bands of that era that should have been bigger. And it was a really, really good podcast that is out now on video and YouTube and in audio.
Kevin, the freak here has an important question considering what you got on the show the last time we went live. I think it's very important you give him a proper answer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Freak hooked me up.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Also, Time Warp 1983. I know we're getting ready to record for December, which is going to cover the movies of December as well as the awards for that year. But to part 6 with the greatest holiday movie of all time, Kevin, The Day After. I mean,
yes.
what an uplifting holiday film that movie is.
Yeah, the months of October and November of 83 were very interesting. We had Sean Connery returning as James Bond, and we had one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time come out, but we also had The Day After, the most watched TV movie of all time. Also scared the crap out of everyone about let's not do nuclear bombs. So yeah, we get into that. And there was another nuclear bomb movie that people have forgotten about living with the after effects of a nuclear attack that is also discussed in that podcast, but you have to listen and or watch the podcast to check that out. And we will be following up with December of 83, finishing out our 83 year with the Academy Award winners and the Razzie Award winners of 1983. So check that out later next month.
And we got some fun stuff planned for December. We'll let you know when we have it ready to go. So, but guys, we do have some actual regular news to talk about too. This guy on the screen, I think he might come up later in this podcast too.
Dave Filoni, what's he up to, Kyle?
Dave Filoni has gotten a little bit of a promotion as he is now the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm, which kind of puts him at that level with Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, come on, he's been the Padawan for this for years. He's finally finished his Jedi trials. Is the master now.
So question on that. What does that mean? Like, how powerful is he?
Well, we just have somebody who will be able to do that because it is Thanksgiving, and I used a little Thanksgiving magic. So I have brought in somebody who can probably tell us all about this because he's one of the hosts of What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast, and I know he's got the Drunken Gungan triple parked outside on the curb. Mr. Derek Marsh, welcome to the Culture Clash Thanksgiving special, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving, gents.
Good to see you, Derek. Good to see you. So, what do you make of this news of Filoni being promoted here, and how much power does that give him?
So, obviously, it's kind of naming somebody finally, kind of not quite the Kevin Feige, right? Like of the MCU, where he's got complete control over everything, but from the creative side, it is, right? He's kind of the voice, the reasoning, which makes sense, right? Because he's the Padawan that became the Jedi Knight, who's now the Jedi Master when it comes to following Lucas and everything that he's done. So this, I think, is going to be nice because it's going to be kind of a single voice, which I feel like recently there's been too many people that have been coming and going once The Mandalorian did as well as it did, and everybody started getting exciting about Star Wars again. And I think this will help a bit. At least I'm hoping, right? Because we've felt like kind of, the past 3 years or so post-COVID that, it's kind of been up and down, right? Where it felt like for that good 3 years, right when Mandalorian season 1 and everything was coming out was just, bang, bang, bang. Everything was good. They were solid. And then they kind of got distracted. So that's how I'm taking it, that there's going to be a single voice.
I'm guessing then that this also means that he'll have his fingerprint stamp on anything that Lucasfilm is involved in, which means an extra probably executive producer credit or whatever creative credit. Which bumps up his pay raise, obviously, in addition to whatever salary he's making. But I'm just wondering, like, how much is he going to have the final say when stuff is kind of thrown on the wall to see if it sticks, I guess?
I mean, nobody knows for sure, but that's the way it's meant to sound so far, right? I mean, when you're saying chief creator, right?
Well, this is the step in the right direction, right? This is what we kind of, as fans, want to see. At least I know I do.
Well, the one thing I'm hoping it does, though, is it allows him to focus more on just that, though, right? Bringing it to a single voice and not be solely responsible for writing everything, right? Because I feel like when Dave is trying to do too much, that's when Star Wars suffers. I think when he's given just, one project or something like that, where he's writing and doing everything, it goes out of the park. But when he's got the right vision, and I think it's like, okay, everyone come to him. And to your point, Kevin, right? He's the final decision maker, but he keeps the story flowing, right? He makes it make sense because they don't really have something where the Marvel comics or the MCU, I should say, has to be able to fall back, right? They don't have all this great, not that they don't have the legend stuff, but we know they're probably not going to tap into that very often. Unlike the Marvel MCU world where they have so much, where Kevin Feige and then the writers there can tap into, if they don't like this Daredevil, they can go to that Daredevil, right? Which they're doing, right? They're kind of retapping Daredevil with the Reborn or whatever it's at, right? So that's where hopefully, Filoni will be able to keep it, like I said, a single voice, make it make sense, and still keep it thematic too, because sometimes there's been parts where it's like, that just doesn't feel Star Wars, right? Even though Filoni's been attached to it. But again, like I said, we'll see.
I think one of the big things that comes out of this too is this really gets a little bit of definition at Lucasfilm of the structure, because even though we're not quite sure all of Dave Filoni's role in this, as head of creative, basically it means that the final creative decisions will be his, which takes that out of Kathleen Kennedy's hands, so she can focus more on the business side, as she has been hinting for the last few years that she's closer to retirement than what is being hinted on. And this is something that Dave has basically been training under with Jon Favreau to take over since really with the advent of Disney Plus. And I think if anybody can keep at least Star Wars on a path and making sure it's not going too far into left field or what, it is Dave, because I mean, he's the walking breathing encyclopedia of all things Star Wars. So, but we have some other news too, because there is another franchise and another film that is starting to get its momentum going. James Gunn's Superman film. Of course, James Gunn is in charge of DC over at Warner Brothers now, and they had a very significant piece of casting announced just the other day, because we have had our Superman, but now we have our Lex Luthor, and it's none other than Nicholas Hoult who will be playing Lex Luthor. And guys, I gotta say, I actually really like this casting, because I think Nicholas Hoult is very underrated as an actor, and he can play an evil. And I will say this: he will make us forget about Jesse Eisenberg real quick.
I like him. I will be bringing him up again later in this podcast. But of course, I remember him in Warm Bodies. Is that what it was? Where he plays the zombie?
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah.
And of course, he was one of the war boys in the Mad Max Fury Road. And he did a movie called, forgetting the name of it, but with Felicity Jones from Rogue One, where they were kind of on the run from the mob in Europe. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I just like him overall. I think this will be good. He's a good actor too, so I think he'll dive right into it. And I think that if you're going to do a Superman movie, and I had to look up to see who played Superman, and it's David Cornsweet. Cornsweet. I think that's how you pronounce it. Not really familiar with a lot of his stuff, but at least you have someone to fall into the shoes of the most iconic Superman villain.
Derek, what do you think? I mean, have you been following what Gunn has been doing with the DC universe, or are you just kind of in the wait and see mode here?
Yeah, I'm kind of wait and see. I'll be honest. I love Nicholas Hoult. I'm with Kevin, right? He's a phenomenal actor, but as Lex Luthor, I don't care for that particular, just because to me, Lex Luthor, and this is no discredit to Nicholas, but he looks too much like a young kid, like a college kid, right? He's got that face stuff. I need Lex Luthor to look like a man, like a 40, 50-year-old man, right? To me, that's Lex Luthor, because I need somebody who's been in the world, who's been in the business. Jesse Eisenberg and Nicholas Hoult here, they're like, and I guess if they want to, I guess, and this is where I'm different compared to kids nowadays, people under their 30s, where, you can have these mogul enterprise kids, content creators be in their, late teens and early 20s and be worth millions of dollars, or billions of dollars for some of these, Logan Paul and Jake Paul type deal. And to me, that doesn't feel like Lex Luthor. I need somebody who's been in the world, who's seen things, who's been, has enough time to like lay his grubby paws in everything, in politics and the underworld and all that stuff. And somebody who's in his 30s, just I just doesn't feel like it. Like, was he, born into a mob crime house? I don't know, right? So I'm that type of person where it's like I need a and the same thing with Superman. Like, okay, they're going to cast somebody so that way we can have him for the next 30 years. All right, fine, whatever. But give me a man. And no discredit to Nicholas. I mean, he's obviously
well, and this is the aspect of this that Gunn has said. This is a younger Superman, so it makes sense to have a little bit of a younger Lex Luthor. But I think Nicholas can get there. I'm very intrigued to see what's going on. But if you want to talk about casting, that I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling this casting, and this is not official, but it's being reported pretty heavy that it's going to happen. Pedro Pascal, Reed Richards. We know Pedro's fantastic, but I am just not feeling this casting here. He just doesn't. I love Pedro, but he's just not Reed Richards, Derek.
Yeah, Reed Richards with an accent. So unless if they're gonna get, where is he from? Cuba? I can't remember where's he from exactly.
Venezuela.
Is he Venezuela?
I think it's
South American.
Yeah, South American. So if they're gonna make them all South American and go that route, okay, that's fine. Let's do a different twist on it then altogether. But and again, yeah, I love Pedro, right? You're talking to the Star Wars guy here, so everything he's done. And he's been great. And again, that was, to me, he was kind of the shining moment in Wonder Woman 84. I thought he was probably the best part out of that debacle of a DC movie. So, but yeah, I'm with you, Kyle. I'm not feeling it. If that's the rumor or not. I mean,
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because we have Vanessa Kirby, who is confirmed as Sue Richards, and apparently the film is actually going to be focused on the Sue Richards character, or Sue Storm character in this. But Kevin, not only am I not feeling Pedro as Mr. Fantastic, I'm kind of worried because we had this conversation too about Taika Waititi. Are we getting to the point where we maybe have a little bit of Pedro Pascal overexposure?
I don't know about that yet because I haven't had any Pascal fatigue. I just don't want him to stop voicing the Mandalorian. I don't expect him to be in the suit all the time. I don't care about that, but I need him to stay in the Mandalorian world, which he can just come in on a weekend and probably pop that out if he's not going to be in the suit. But no, I'm not there yet, Kyle. I like him. I like everything he's been in so far. Yeah, so I'm going to wait and see. But I love Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. I'm a huge fan of Vanessa Kirby. So I'm kind of curious how it's going to go. But I was also on the like, really? Reed Richards, Pedro? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
he could play Doom.
Yeah, we could play Doom. I get it. Actually, Dave Mattingly brought up a good point. I like to see him as the maker, the evil Reed Richards. I actually think that would be a better role for Pedro than being the actual Reed Richards. But we'll see. how that goes out. Welcome back to Ben Grimm. I don't know. That's the one. There's been a few names thrown out. Ben Grimm is going to be somebody who's going to be CGI'd anyway, so we'll see. But there is another comic book movie that is coming out before the end of this year. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I have to admit, I was going into this. I'm going into this film kind of like, this feels like it's on lame duck status because of the situation with DC and their films and stuff like that. But Momoa's Aquaman is fun, and this trailer looks fun, and I'm at least intrigued by what I've seen in this trailer, Kevin.
It does look fun. I'll probably see it just because Jason Momoa is fun to see on the big screen. And I think that he's having fun doing it, and I'm excited to see him bring back the guy that was kind of the jerk villain from the last movie he did. What was it called? He's
Black
back
Manta.
again. No, the other guy that was his brother.
His brother, yeah, played by Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, no, not Patrick Wilson, something else Wilson. Maybe you're right. I can't remember. But the trailer looks fun. I probably will check it out. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Derek. Yeah. It is Patrick Wilson, by the way, Kevin. I just looked that up.
It is. Okay. Thank you,
Derek. I want to ask you because there's some in this trailer. Kevin's might not realize this because he's not a big comic fan. Are they going to do what I think they're going to do in this trailer and pull a certain story from the Aquaman that was pretty controversial involving his son?
Probably. But I'll be honest, guys. I still haven't even watched the first one. And to be part of this too, I've kind of lost interest in anything DC right now, just to the point you were making earlier, Kyle, about everything James Gunn. Like, okay, they're gonna make this movie, they're gonna release it because they got to make some money back because everything they've done the past 3 years has been just, bombed or not made the money, and they need to recoup something rather than canning everything. And because he's recasting everyone, I kind of don't have interest because it's like, okay, great, and then nothing else is going to happen potentially with this character unless if they do some Infinite Crisis and and then merge everybody again, and he makes a cameo just like they've done with the multiverse and in the MCU. But yeah, I'll be honest.
He was in the Flash movie. He had a brief scene in that.
Yeah, I saw that on YouTube. I watched it just because I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is. But I still haven't even watched The Flash either. I mean, I'll at some point when this comes to Max, I'll probably just watch both on a weekend. But like I said, to your point earlier, Kevin, I like Momoa. I think he's great. I like watching his stuff. I just, I don't know, just haven't had much of a thing for Aquaman, I guess.
Kyle, what did they do with his son in the comics? Don't leave that hanging like that.
There's something that they do with his son that's pretty controversial, and I don't want to put it out because I don't want to put a spoiler out for people.
Okay, you can put it in the private chat.
Yeah, I'll let you know off mic or in the Derek if you want to drop it in the private chat for him. Well, but I think the big thing with this Aquaman movie, this is where the star of the film is your selling point for the film. People love Momoa as Aquaman. They love the energy he brings. So
was Amber Heard replaced or was she canceled? I don't know.
She's in it. She's in it. And how much she's in it? That's the big question. We'll see when the edit comes out.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm intrigued. Let's put it that way. And we do have the end of the strikes, thankfully, and which means that the movie board is shuffling, and one of the biggest movies that it was actually supposed to be in theaters right now that got affected by the strike was Dune 2, and Dune 2 got pushed back into kind of mid-March. Well, guys, they've moved Dune 2 again, but they moved it up a couple of weeks. It's now aimed for a March 1st release. I'm really excited for Dune 2 because the trailer is phenomenal. The first Dune film really surprised me. I had high hopes for it, but I think it did very well with this. I'm just curious to see how this movie is going to do with the delays and everything like that. One of the things I think would be genius and it would be a smart move is they should re-release the first Dune in theaters and at least double feature this, Kevin.
That would be a nice little thing. At least get Dune out there for like a week. maybe
Yeah.
2 at the most, and then Dune 2 comes out. And then if you could buy like a double feature, a little marathon ticket, I would do that. That'd be fun, you know.
What about you, Derek? Have you seen? Did you? I'm assuming you saw the first Dune film.
Yeah, I watched the first one, right? So that was everything that came out in Max that year. So yeah, no, I liked it. It's a slow burn, right? It's but overall, it's I mean, it's so hard sometimes with the way certain novels are written to translate it to live action, right, or to any type of movie, right? So but I feel like they've been doing a good job going with it. So I'm interested, obviously, for them to finish up this first novel with the second part here. Obviously, some of the spoilers they've shown, they're kind of crept into the next novel as well, it appears. But overall, I think I'm again, will I see it in theater? I don't know, just because I just don't have a whole lot of time. I get to maybe go see an MCU movie every so often, like I did with the Marvels with the wife on a date night here and there. But I'll definitely be watching it once it hits the Max for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's an IMAX to me, Kevin. It's a movie you definitely need to see on IMAX if you can.
Yeah, or in 3D. I saw the first one in 3D, and I would like to see this one in 3D too, if it's released in 3D.
But that is going to wrap up our news. But we are nowhere near finished with this episode of Culture Clash. So let's get into our main topic of the show. As we said, this is a special Thanksgiving episode of Culture Clash and the return of the Magic 8 Ball. Kevin, is it behaving over there? It's not glowing red or anything like that?
It's doing all right.
I actually have a question for it. Is Derek Marsh going to make it to the end of the show?
I mean,
Let's see here. Signs point to yes. Yep.
Well, that's good.
Your wife will be appreciative. So we are going to talk the Magic 8 Ball about our top 8, our 8 things in fandom we are truly thankful for. But before we get into that, when Kevin and I were discussing the ideas for this show, one of the things we wanted to talk about was some things this year that we were thankful for as well. And so we kind of put together some lists on that. And one of the first things that Kevin and I think we're both very thankful for, the strikes are over. This was kind of weighed on us all year, finally getting resolution to both the writers and the actor strike. Big deal. We can hopefully get between COVID causing all the delays and now this, hopefully we can now get back to a sense of normalcy, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's not about like, okay, fine, they can start working on our stuff that we want to see, or the movies that were in the can and couldn't be released because they didn't want to do the promotion without the actors and the creatives behind it. But I think it's really important with in the streaming world that a precedent is being set, and this is I think like a 3-year deal or something like that. And I think that with streaming out there and the streaming rights and the pay for actors as well, with residuals, all that kind of stuff, I'm happy that they will be getting a bump, both the writers and the actors, when it comes to that format, because I feel like with the streaming channels, it was like kind of kept under wraps. We never knew really like how popular and how many people were watching certain things, and that writers were getting screwed as well, of this new format. And I think it needs to be controlled a little bit more strictly. I miss the days of ratings for broadcast television and stuff like that. Or we do get still movie tallies and stuff like that. But when stuff comes streaming and movie, how do you judge the two? And so I'm glad for the writers and the actors that is come to a close for now, until I think 3 years is a good contract, and then it will be up again. We'll see how streaming is at that point.
Derek, what about you? You kind of came in late, and I know sometimes the data upload to the Drunken Gungan is a little slow, especially if the Wi-Fi's fritzy. Would you count the ending of the strikes as something you're thankful for this year?
Well, absolutely. I mean, is it perfect? No. Obviously, it was something that the writers in what they were able to work with the studios, but I definitely agree. I mean, it's so weird to think that when like new media platforms come out like this, that's not written into the contract for them to redo the contract at that point in time, because it's been many years since stream. It's not like Netflix hasn't been around. Netflix has been around for over 10 years at this point on the streaming side, which is crazy to think. That we've been, able to stream stuff over the, and YouTube's been longer than that, those types of things, right? So it's crazy to think, and it's not even the end too, because obviously there's the music industry that's pretty hard when it comes to this type of stuff. So, but yeah, definitely thankful, because I mean, you could definitely tell right now that the release of new stuff has been pushed, right? Like you were talking about Dune, all this stuff, but just things in general, they kind of really push stuff out to kind of slow drip it to us, because they were going to run out of content real quick when it comes to the end of 2024. So we'll be getting things here, slow drip to us probably for the next 6 to 9 months, until they're able to get some of the stuff caught back up.
Very, very true. And one of the other things I was thankful for personally this year, and it was as much to do about the ending of COVID and getting people back into the theaters more than it is really about the movies themselves, even though they were outstanding films. But guys, I am thankful for the Barbieheimer effect that we had over the summer with these two films for a couple of reasons. One, it did get people back into theaters. And I think that was something that was very important, especially considering we knew the strikes were coming, and but theaters really needed this. And two, the aspect of people were flocking to these movies, and they weren't what I would call huge franchise type films. They weren't an MCU. They weren't a Star Wars. They weren't a Fast and Furious or something like that. These were two films that really did stand alone and were more than just, oh, this is the next action movie out. This is the craziness of it. These were two legitimately interesting, intriguing, and well thought out films, Kevin, for totally different reasons. But the fact it came out the same day and everything with it, it got people talking, it got people into the theaters, and that was a wonderful thing to see.
I actually went to the theater and saw both of these on the same day, back to back in the same theater. I went to the Mann's, or TLC Chinese Theater, as it's called now, in Hollywood, the famous one. I saw Oppenheimer on IMAX at 6 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. I went and saw Barbie. So I did the double feature. I did this. And so it got me in the theater, of course, and it got me to go see it in an iconic theater setting as well. For me, one is more rewatchable than the other, but it was nice to see both of these. And Barbie, billion-dollar film.
Go figure. Now, Derek, I know you don't you've got a busy schedule, so you don't get the time out. Did you or anybody in your family get to see either one of these films?
No, I mean, we definitely, Christina and I want to see Barbie, at some point here. And I know Christina does, definitely, for sure. We just, obviously trying to commit to that kind of time just wasn't going to happen. And I'm disappointed, though. You guys didn't mention it was the Saw Patrol as well, was the other one they were trying to get people to do, where they were trying to watch Saw 10 and the Paw Patrol.
But also, we got to give a shout out to the Super Mario Brothers movie. That was very successful. I got all the kids and the family in there as well. So yeah, but I want to give credit to Maverick last year for actually opening up that door again after post COVID, because people went to Maverick, like in droves. Tenet tried to be that movie, but because Tenet was Tenet, it wasn't. But Maverick came out just at the right time, and then okay, now it's safe to go to movies. And then these two movies come out, and definitely made an imprint. So, yes, Dave, 6 a.m. showing. Oppenheimer came out. It was showing around the clock at that theater. You could go to a 3 a.m. showing, if I remember correctly.
Now,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. The next thing up of things that we are thankful for is one Kevin and I are definitely in agreement. We are very thankful for the final season of Star Trek Picard, giving us what we hoped from the Picard series all along, bringing together all of the cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation to give them a final bow out together, proper, well done, well executed. Kevin, we talked about, we were in love with the show on the Union Federation podcast. I know you just gush about Star Trek Picard season 3.
This is how you pay tribute to the original source material and give the original cast a send-off. Not only did we get the Enterprise D back, but we got Jean-Luc Picard and the rest of the cast at the very end playing poker. And it was a joy to watch. And, season 1 and 2 of Picard was hit and miss. It had some great moments. But with Terry Matalas, putting everything right, basically, season 3 of Picard really did a wonderful job of showcasing the TNG group and giving them some wonderful material to work with and sending them out the right way. It was absolute wonder to watch this show and the podcast about it on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Now, Derek, even the Drunken Gungan did a little yielding for Picard season 3, didn't it?
Oh, of course. It was actually probably the only show outside of Star Wars for this particular season that I pretty much watched it every week. I didn't get to watch it always every Thursday when it dropped, but at least within the first 48 hours, I was watching it. So you could definitely tell when it does something like that for a show. For me, obviously, I've got a vested interest in, and I just thought overall, to the points Kevin talked about, I mean, him and I feel the same way about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Again, that's what it should have been. Was honoring our original cast members, and then if you want to kill them off, that's fine, but at least we got our moment where they're all together, they go on one true last heroic mission, and we get that final quote unquote send off before you do it. There obviously was a couple of things that were fan service for this one, but I didn't care because that's what I wanted, right? I mean, you're literally watching a show called Picard, right? I'm okay with that. So, it hit a lot of moments. I mean, there was, and the casting of the other characters that they brought in, again, they rumor is whether they're still going to do the Enterprise with everyone that with Jack
seven and 9 Raffi,
all them. That's fine, but at least at the end of the day, they weren't front and center. Our main cast was front and center. They were part of that journey with them, and that's how you pass the torch.
Well said. The next thing, Kevin, I know you're thankful for. You are such a huge football fan. And you put this on your list, and you have some very special reasons why you put this on your list.
Ted Lasso, one of my favorite new shows, only had 3 seasons, but boy, were they good. And this last September, my wife and I went to England for 3 weeks. And a good friend of mine a couple of years ago hooked me up when the first season came out with a Ted Lasso jersey, a Roy Kent jersey. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Keith Mandeville. And I took that with me, and we went to Richmond, UK, which is east of London. You could take a train there. And they have fully embraced Ted Lasso there. It has increased a lot of tourism over there. And the city right in this area, if you're familiar with the TV series, they film it all around in this area. And so I had to walk down the little pathway that Ted Lasso always does when he goes to work. And you can go to the bar. The bar's a real bar that they film there. And we went there. My wife and I had a drink in the little courtyard out there as well. But more importantly, that series was a really good character study on characters' redemption, characters' involvement, and a very good example of how to lead people without maybe knowing how to play the game. He learns later. But Jason Sudeikis did a wonderful job as Ted Lasso and bringing this team together. And Hannah Waddingham, who plays the team owner, she just turned out to be probably the breakout star outside of Ted Lasso. She was just wonderful as the team owner. Very entertaining lady as well. And you can also see her on Apple Plus. She has her own holiday special out right now. She's a very accomplished singer herself, very funny. But Ted Lasso, to me, really hit a certain chord this year, and I'm sad to see it go. I hope some way, in one way, we'll get Ted Lasso back, and it was great to go to the filming locations with my wife because we both enjoyed Ted Lasso.
The show that put Apple TV Plus on the map. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
And with Apple TV raising the rates now, I was paying $6.99 a month. Now they're $9.99 or something like that. $10.99. I can't remember.
Everybody's raising their rates.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep it now that Ted Lasso's gone. So they better come up with some good stuff.
No, they have some good stuff. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But Derek, did you watch any Ted Lasso?
We're still working through season 1. It's a show that we have enjoyed. I just haven't been able to watch it fully through. So, but yeah, I do like the show so far. Just like I said, slowly but surely.
Well, next on the list of things that we are thankful for, something that I was incredibly thankful for, incredibly surprised by, and excuse me, I put it down as the greatest video game adaptation of all time, and that is The Last of Us on HBO. We were talking about Pedro Pascal earlier. He is phenomenal in this. This show was breathtaking. The show was incredible. This show was so much more than what I was expecting, and it was phenomenal. It became water cooler television, which I thought we were kind of done with after Game of Thrones had ended.
Yeah.
And we all thought we were kind of burned out on some zombies because of The Walking Dead, and yet this show just hit every chord, Kevin. And we covered this show with our good friend John Moss because he was so impressed by it and such a fan of it. Season 2 starts filming right after the holidays. I cannot wait for the return of The Last of Us.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. The drama was great. The acting was great. The setting was great. Everything was great about it. My only hang up on it, though, is I don't know how rewatchable it is for me because it's a tough watch. It's depressing at times. It really is. But I find it fascinating. I'm definitely going to watch it once.
Derek, did you watch The Last of Us?
Nope, haven't got a chance to do it yet. Sorry.
That is quite all right. That is not a problem. Lastly, Kevin, you have something from this year that you were very thankful for. That was a lot of fun.
This is one of the movies that surprised me the most, Renfield. And this is where I told you I was going to bring Nicholas Hoult up again. My wife and I went to go see this, and we were just kind of like, yeah, let's go check it out. You know, we get to see Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and we'll see how it goes. And it was a dark comedy. It was extremely violent and bloody and extremely hilarious. I think it's an underrated film that more people need to see. Everyone that I know that has seen it has enjoyed it. And I got it on my old Blu-ray digital right here. Highly worth it. This is the Dracula Sucks edition. And Nicholas Hoult stars as Renfield, the tortured aide to historic's most narcissistic boss, Dracula, played by Nicolas Cage. For centuries, Renfield has savagely served Dracula by procuring his master's prey and doing his every bidding, no matter how debased. But now, Renfield is ready to look for a new life outside the shadow of the Prince of Darkness, if only he can figure out how to end the toxic, codependent relationship. And the funniest scenes are when he is in therapy with his other therapy friends that are in toxic relationships. And when Vampire finds out, things get very interesting.
Now, Derek, did you, like I said, they know that data feed on the Drunken Gun because it's a little, kind of like the hyperdrive, a little temperamental. Is there anything that you want to bring up that came out within the year of 2023 that you're thankful?
Yeah, I've got 3 things. I mean, obviously, just all-encompassing Star Wars. I thought everything that came out this year was pretty darn good. Obviously, being able to see live-action Ahsoka, you know, and then what they did with the Clone Wars, that was wonderful. And then obviously seeing, you know, basically Rebels season 5, as we like to joke about, but not related to Star Wars. There's a few things that I was super thankful to see this year. The first one is One Piece. the live action. So that is really good. Super, excited that they actually got something right when it comes to anime, because there's, talk about, what we get with sometimes Star Trek or Star Wars, those IPs. Anime, just like almost all video games, is like, less than 10% when it comes to really well done when they translate it to either movies and or live action. Obviously that one, you guys touched it earlier, the Super Mario Brothers, phenomenal film. Then the other thing that I was super happy about this year was Venture Brothers got its final movie. I love the Venture Brothers. It was a show that I started watching way back when I was in college over 20 years ago, when it first came out. It's just one of those shows that, the writers, took a long time to put up with this stuff. And when Adult Swim was not going to renew them, then HBO, when they bought all that stuff from Adult Swim, they were going to let them renew it for a final season, but then that got dragged out and turned into a final movie. So at least we got that. I would like to see
real quick. I need to finish the Venture Brothers. I went through season 4, then like in between seasons, I lost track of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, and I saw it for like DVD at Walmart, but it was like $90, and I'm like, ouch. So I'm gonna catch it when it drops later because I do want to see that movie, but I want to marathon the entire series because I really enjoyed it.
You can watch the whole entire series on Max if you have.
It is on Max. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you can. So funny.
Yeah, no, and it's one of the few things that over the years that I'm with you, bought the DVDs, Kevin. So I actually own all the seasons on it, though. Now it's crazy to think the last season came out like 7 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And then we finally get the movie that it was. But no, just super thankful for that as well. And then I know we're going to talk about it, a little bit later here with your next thing, but just super excited to hopefully see Kaiju here. Hitting the not just big screen, which sounds like great reviews coming up, but also what's coming out on the streaming.
We are going to be talking about that. In fact, Magic 8 Ball has waited long enough. Let's get into the main thing, the 8 things we're thankful for, because the Magic 8 Ball told us we had to answer the question or things. So first up for me, I try to do my list kind of based on some different criteria. I didn't want to just say the MCU or Star Wars, even though I am incredibly thankful for those. But what I am thankful for with those things is the creators. And that means Kevin Feige for Marvel, Dave Filoni for Star Wars, and the man who has his fingerprints all over both in the modern sense, one Jon Favreau, because we don't have the MCU if Jon Favreau doesn't make Iron Man and Iron Man isn't successful. You don't have the MCU without Kevin Feige taking it to the next level. And what Dave Filoni has done, keeping Star Wars alive in a way and being the man who's really, in some ways, maybe he contributed more to Star Wars than anybody else throughout history, even more than George at this point. I'm thankful for these creators. I'm thankful for the fact that they've kept these franchises alive for us. Yes, they're in a little bit of a rocky time at times, but you know what? They're here and they're working hard to try to keep these franchises relevant and put out quality product as well. And they're both important to me, and the men behind them are important to me as well.
Quick note on that, Kyle. I feel like we have, because I know that Filoni and Favreau met when Favreau was working on another film at Skywalker Ranch or Sound. It might have been Elf or something. I can't remember.
I think it might have been Elf.
Yeah.
That's how they met, the animation portion.
Yeah. So, we have to kind of thank Elf in a way.
Yeah.
Then of course, then he goes and does audio. He gets invited to voice a character on the Clone Wars, and then one thing led to another, and that relationship just stayed there for a while. And then also got Disney's attention when he went in and did Iron Man, which we're very, very thankful for. So yeah, but Kevin Feige, look at this guy, man, just like always being around, just being a constant, making sure the synergy of all the films work together and tying in all of the end credit scenes and mid credit scenes, and just that's just a phenomenal thing right there. He's been able to do that.
Derek, any thoughts here?
I mean, obviously, like I said, yeah, for what they were able to put out this year, I definitely, appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like there was, some missteps the past few years with Marvel. So, Phase 4 hasn't been my most favorite, which it felt like everything for the Infinity Saga was just flawless for the most part. But this has been, kind of bumpy to your point earlier. So, but again, I am thankful to have some of it be really good, and I'll take some of the not so good along with it, because that means we get the things that we're going to get.
Kevin, you got something you're very thankful for.
Yeah, I got a tie. There's two things that I'm very, very thankful for. And one is, of course, Highlander. We do a podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network called Blooded Kings. Lee Fillings, this is my co-host. We, of course, started it back in 2016 with our former co-host and former founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Norman Lau. Blooded Kings. And Highlander is very personal to me because it is how I met my lovely wife, Erin, and we have bonded on Highlander together, especially the original film. We've gone to Scotland, and I got some pictures of us in Scotland there at Highlander, iconic Highlander locations, including the famous church scene with the Kurgan and Connor McLeod, and of course the famous Eileen Doohan castle that we see in the beginning of the original Highlander film. And then that's a picture of Aaron and I. We got married last year in Las Vegas. We kind of had a little spooky, aliens theme as well, because we're big fans of aliens. And so I'm Highlander will always be a special place in my heart. Shout out to Highlander Heart, the other wonderful Highlander page that's run by our friend Grant Kempster. And as far as he knows, we are the first Highlander couple to meet there and get married. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Highlander is so special to you, and, obviously brought you and your wife together. So it's always going to have a special place in my heart, too. And I'm thankful for what it's done for you.
Tied with it is the Fandom Podcast Network, Kyle. You. A brother from another mother, man. You hit me up at 2015 Dragon Con saying, hey, you want to do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, hit me up after Dragon Con. Can't think about it right now. And I was living in Atlanta at the time. And the best thing about the Fandom Podcast Network is you are my best friend and my fellow brother in podcasting. And we've got to share some actual time together at football games, at Dragon Con, and you've been to, hung out with my daughter, and so yeah, we've been through a lot, and we've we've put together something special here at the Fandom Podcast Network, and will be forever grateful that you reached out to me because of the stuff that we've been able to do, and thus creating this family under the umbrella, like Derek and Scott and Nathan for What a Piece of Junk, as well as everyone else, with Adam and Lethal Weapon, our Lethal Mullet podcast, and, Type 40 with Dan, and of course with Haley and Amy for Union Federation podcast. And it's just, and Lee with Bloody Kings, as I mentioned, and Lacey and everyone else that's contributed to the Fandom Podcast Network. And it's been my biggest hobby for many years now, and I will always be forever thankful.
It's semi-cutting onions. Every day I'm thankful for the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm thankful you agreed to my crazy ideas at the time, and you're my best friend, and we've been through, like you said, we've been through a lot. You spent time with my family. We've shared a lot of interesting things over the years, and just been there for each other, and everything with the Fandom Podcast Network. Like, I tell everybody who's involved in this, it's not just, hey, we're getting together for podcasting. We are a family here, and that's something I am so incredibly proud of, and that I have made some amazing friends and people who I consider friends and family from this, and I would not change anything of it for the world. And we're on that note. I was going to save this for towards the end of the show, but I'm also so thankful for everybody out there who listens and gives us their valuable time during
Everyone in the chat here too.
Yeah,
You know, we
yeah.
appreciate that.
whether you listen, watch, join in the chat. You guys are amazing, and we don't do this without you guys, and we do this for you guys. So this is a labor of love, and so thankful for it. And I don't know if Derek is appreciative of what we dragged him into. I don't think he really had any idea at the time.
It's as Star Wars, right? It's a love-hate relationship sometimes. It's again, thankful guys. Obviously I've been blessed to have great co-hosts on What a Piece of Junk. It's always great when you guys are able to join us, or some of the other guests that we've had, whether they're part of the Fandom Podcast Network or just Star Wars fans in general. So when we bring them on, it's great. And it's just, it's just a great way of communicating it. Whether there's listeners or not, you still get to speak your mind and opinion and get it out there. And hopefully, as you were mentioning, Kyle, at least, hopefully at least there's one listener out there. But obviously just, crazy to think that we've been doing this now. When did
the network itself 6 years and you guys 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was 2018, right? When or 2019 when Mando came out. No, it was 18.
Yeah,
crazy to think it was 18. Yeah, so it's 5 years. Because it was October of 18 when it came out. So crazy to think. Yeah, we're basically aligned with the birth of Disney Plus. So, however,
I'm also thankful to you, Derek, that if I have any questions about the worth of any Star Wars or Star Trek CCG cards, I can go to you now.
No, I mean, that's definitely still passion. So it's always great to
right, put up David Sendin's comment there again, Kyle. Yes.
He is the one who dragged me into this podcasting thing at the beginning. So
yes, thankful
you're doing some Star Wars Rebels with him and Matt Clifton, so
there you go.
Shout out to those guys.
He's now the master.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing I am incredibly thankful for not only this year, but just in general, is something that has had a resurgence in the past year. And it's on a 60th anniversary too, because guys, Godzilla. I grew up as a kid, Superstation WTBS in Alaska, one of the few cable channels we got on a consistent basis, showing all those old man in rubber suit, campy 70s Godzilla films, and I grew up on those. And
Go Baragon!
Yeah, I had the Godzilla Shogun Warriors toy as a kid, and as I've grown up, the appreciation for what Godzilla is and what it's become in this last, really, I would say, decade, with the Legendary Pictures films here in the U.S., starting with Godzilla in 2014 to the release of Shin Godzilla, the last Japanese film to hit the U.S. theaters in 2016. And of course, 1 week from tomorrow, Godzilla -1 drops in theaters here in the United States, the first Japanese Godzilla film since Shin Godzilla, and it looks phenomenal. And of course, we have the new Monarch series on Apple TV Plus, which I will be talking about a little bit later. And of course, Godzilla Kong coming out in April of 2024. It's a primetime Godzilla. Derek, I know you are very excited about one of our favorite kaijus.
Yeah, I mean, whether I'll get to see it in theater or not, obviously Godzilla is meant for theater too, right? It's like that. Mm-hmm. But whether I get a chance to go see it or not will be one thing. I usually try to go out on Tuesdays when it's $6 movie night at the local movie tavern here. If I can get away, but otherwise, super excited. And I'll be, like I said, super excited to watch the series here pretty soon. Like I said, I've got a little bit of time in the evenings, and that's where I usually try to get like a show or two in, get an episode or so in. So I'll definitely be able to, catch up this, since I'm doing the podcast tonight, I'll be the next couple of nights I'll be able to watch it, but super excited.
Kevin, I know you actually went to Shin Godzilla in the theater and enjoyed it. Do you have a Godzilla -1 ticket yet?
No, I don't. I know that's not probably going to be playing anywhere near me because our theaters here suck. I have to drive like an hour south to the good theaters like the AMC and stuff. So when is that showing again? What date?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. I'll have to look into that, but we'll see.
Yeah. But just thankful for everything Godzilla has done for me growing up, and I cannot wait. But Derek, anything you want to throw into the hopper while here real quick as far as things you're just in fandom you're thankfully general, or are you going to just ride along the ride with us?
Like I said, I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, right? What's hit up, but I mean, definitely, I've been scouring your guys' list as I get the notes before the listeners get to hear and the viewers. But definitely, some of the things on your guys' list, I'll definitely be chiming in some more stuff. So, but overall, just thankful for my family and my friends, whether that's in person or even on the podcast world or online video game world that I play with a little bit. Just great to have time to hang out with friends like your guys yourself tonight. And then, just the health and wellness of my family. Got to do a trip earlier, just 4 weeks ago for the first time, took Sophia to Disney World. So she got on her plane ride and got to go do all that stuff. It's interesting when you have, and I'm sure Kevin can relate to this a little bit when, we remember how we were growing up as boys. And I'm an only child, so I never really got to experience the things that girls did, right? You always be like, as a boy, like, ew, that's girl stuff. But now that I have a daughter, like, it's kind of like you have to get into it. So but the cool thing about kids nowadays is that girls can like things that boys like, so she gets a mixture between, unicorn, princess, sparkly thing, or Super Mario Brothers, or, Young Jedi, or whatever, Spidey and Amazing Friends, or like I said, Rainbow Rangers, whatever mixture stuff, but it's all over.
Good news, Kyle. It is playing in my town.
Oh, there you
Nice.
go.
Shin Godzilla. I'll have to see if I can watch it.
Kevin, up next is a classic. We're all, and we know everybody on this podcast is thankful for it.
Yeah, Star Wars is on my list for obvious reasons. It holds a special place in my heart. It's it's interesting though. I could definitely talk about the movies, but I want to talk more about the community. And when it comes to Derek and our guys at What a Piece of Junk and the Star Wars podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network, but the Star Wars celebrations, the fact that I worked for a company that produced the Star Wars card game for many years, and I got to experience that. I got to have a character in the Star Wars universe use my name, and my name is an anagram for an actual character, not a good character, but definitely a character. And the community of the 501st Rebel Legion and all of the other Star Wars costumes.
Wait.
There it is, Valken Tazeri. And now there's an actual. Thank you for having that handy there, dude.
Yeah, right. Derek, put that up again. I'm making you full screen so everybody can
I bought as I do, Kevin, like you were saying, I bought a lot a few months ago, and I'm still kind of working through stuff, and I happen to be sorting through because I'm off this week. So I was like, there you go. So yes, it's a anagram for Kevin Reitzel.
There it is. Yeah. And it was kind of validated in a recent post Disney Star Wars encyclopedia. He's in there, which is great. And they also released an action figure. Finally, it is out there of Valken Tazeri. I have to get my hands on that. So.
But have you applied for actor membership then, Kevin? Because you should be able to start getting invited to cons now. You can start doing your own booth and signing autographs of the.
What I actually want to do is make a costume. I want to eventually do a costume since I'm part of the 501st and Rebel Legion. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up, because I love that community. I love the friends that I have accumulated in the 501st and Rebel Legion and stuff. And, that's bled over into other fandoms and stuff. But I saw this when it first came out, Star Wars, 1977 in the theater. I was 6 years old. And this iconic Hildebrandt poster is one of my most memorable scenes I remember. And I have a similar poster here in the house, an original print of it. And I could go on and on and on. And of course it's, we've been through some trying times as of late, when it comes to certain material, but, I still love the original series, and I've become a big fan of, Solo and Rogue One. I love those post, Disney films as well. So, I like to do the, blow up the Death Star and Midnight situation as well, that, Rebel Force Radio, famously started. And it's just it's bled into my other fandoms as well when it comes to cosplay. So yeah.
I could like you. I could go on and on and on about it. Let's just say that like so many people, especially of our age, Kevin. I mean, this was a huge influence on us from a very young age to now, and it's always been a part of our lives, and we were very lucky to have such an amazing idea and concept be part of our lives. And what up, down, whatever, we still love it, and we will still support it because you know what, it's important to us, and we're thankful for it.
And we're living in a special time where there's so much new material to digest. Whether it's not all perfect, but it's there, and I love that.
Derek, yeah, and I know you have thoughts.
Oh, I mean, as I mentioned, there's no reason for me to have my own specific list of things because you guys all like the same things I do, and what we're all thankful for. I mean, yeah, come on, it's one of my top fandoms of all time. It's made me who I am, right? I do a lot of the things that I do in my spare time and free time. Hopefully, as my daughter continues to get older, and starts to comprehend the things that she watches, we'll be able to start developing some type of relationship when it comes to going to the movies and doing those types of things, right? And at some point, hopefully we'll have some Star Wars movies that I get to take her to. And that would be fun. Obviously, it's one of those things that it holds a special place in my heart because, as you guys know, right, back in the day, you didn't get to buy your tickets in advance as you guys are doing here, right? If you did, it was an admittance ticket, but you had to go stand in line days or hours before the actual midnight showing of that Friday night. It wasn't no Thursday at 6:00.
Yeah, I think the last time I remember going in line and buying tickets because I didn't want to trust the internet was for The Force Awakens.
The 24 hours in line for the Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
it was Phantom Menace all the way up to Revenge of the Sith, and that was just one of those things that it's crazy to think my dad's been passed away over 12 years now at this point, but that was something that we used to do. We used to go to those movies because obviously he loved Star Wars as a kid. He got to see the things like Kevin got to do. Obviously he was a little bit older, but those are the things that then when they did the special edition, as well as them doing those things and just the fandom of people out there, right? Because I
want to say that as your daughter gets older, I hope that you do get to share more Star Wars with her, because I got to do that with my daughter Camille. The Clone Wars she really kind of gravitated towards, but I did take her to Force Awakens and the other films as well. So I look forward to seeing you do that later, man. That's going to be special.
Yep. So, but yeah, just between those types of things, those are the things that I hold in my heart and my memory. Because like I said, that was one of the things that we used to do is go see the movies, right? When Lord of the Rings came back, out in the early 2000s, that was the type of thing that I'd go do. And then we would do it every Christmas Eve was the big family shindig that we would do because everyone had kids at that point from my mom's side of the family. So they'd all want to be Christmas morning with their own family. So we would do Christmas Eve would be that, but we wouldn't get done being there all day till, almost after midnight. By the time we'd leave grandma's, we would drive home, 15, 20-minute drive. But we wouldn't go to bed. My dad and I would literally stay up and watch the original trilogy all night into the morning. And at 6 or 7 a.m. when we were finishing, that's when we would open up Christmas presents.
Nice,
nice. Well, on to the next thing that I am thankful for. This beautiful creature right here, the Xenomorph. and I'm going to be honest with you. The Xenomorph in the last few years has taken on even a more special meaning because knowing the mutual love that Kevin and Aaron have of the Xenomorph, and I know it helped bring them together, just warms my heart. and LV426 will have a totally different meaning for me for the rest of my life. But honestly, too, just as far as a fandom thing, one of the greatest creations in science fiction of all time, and not only responsible for one of the most entertaining series of films, and yes, it's had its ups and downs, but because somebody somewhere decided they'd be funny and put a alien head on the back wall of a Predator ship, created some of the best storytelling books and comic books of all time with the Aliens versus Predator series. And hopefully someday we'll actually get a good Aliens versus Predator film. But yeah, the Xenomorph, to me, it's probably, when I think Alien, this is what I think. We may talk ET, we may talk to Predator, so many out there, but when somebody says aliens, it's one thing. It's the Xenomorph, Kevin.
Yeah, what you're referring to is when my wife and I were going to get married in Australia because of the pandemic, our 2020 wedding got canceled, and we were going to get married in Australia. And Aaron and I, our first date was seeing the 30th anniversary of Aliens on the big screen in London. And she's got a big Alien Queen tattoo on her back. And so we bonded on Aliens. And so when finally the pandemic was starting to open up Australia, because I didn't get to see her for 2.5 years. She was stuck over there because of the pandemic. We decided to get married in Las Vegas, and we decided to make an alien theme thing. And not only that, we got married on April 26th, which is for LV 426, because we got married in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, we had a little fun with the date. And so makes it easy to remember our wedding anniversary, which is nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the biggest wedding anniversary cheat code of all time.
Set it as your password. That's all.
Love me some Xenomorph, definitely one of the best aliens of all time, literally.
Derek, I think it wants to kiss you.
I just gotta cover my mouth. That's all. So. I was gonna ask Kyle, because I know you're into video games. Did you get Aliens Dark Descent?
I have not yet. But I have heard some interesting things about it.
Yeah, I want to get it on Steam because it's more of a PC game. Because obviously, right, it's the type of click games. But they said from a tactical strategy game, it is by far phenomenal. There you go.
Sorry, that's funny, Dave. Frankenhooker first date.
It's amazing they got past that. That's credit to them.
That's funny. I love that.
So. But yeah, no, I'm with you. This is a wonderful franchise. Yeah, it's had some of its more recently its downs than its ups. Although there's hope with the series coming out, and obviously we had a good stride with the Predator as well with Prey that came out last year. So maybe they've got some of the right people honing the franchise now, rather than just trying to throw a bunch of things at the wall and just say, hey, a bunch of these people are going to pay lots of money to go see a cruddy movie. So
we can hope. I have heard good things. But next up, Kevin, it hurts. It just hurts my eyes. I'm sorry.
Gotta give some love to Raider Nation. Always been a fan of the Raiders, but dived hardcore into the super fandom back in 2010-ish, and got to do a little mashup with Star Wars, and thus the Raider Nerd, the Mando Star Wars Raider mashup. But more importantly, though, was that the community that as much as our team has sucked over the last 20 years, the community has really been part of what's been important to me. When my first wife passed away, they were there first and to show support. And they're the reason why I have some really good friends in England and Scotland that I can crash on a bed when Aaron and I go visit. And so, as much as our team struggles, Raider Nation is undefeated when it comes to supporting each other. And it's been a big part of my life. And I'll always be forever grateful for my family, extended family in Raider Nation.
And I say this with all honest on the heart. They are some amazing people in the Raider Nation family. It's just amazing that Kevin and I have been able to maintain this podcast long enough when my favorite team and my biggest passion in football is their arch rival, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, who've been a little bit more successful than the Raiders as of late. But I do want to give a shout out to Murph and Raiders Fan Radio. Love the work that he's put into doing that, including creating a charity out of it, the One Nation Foundation, where they give to Raiders charity. Murph's a good guy, and I love Raider Nation till the day I die.
Now, if I'm remembering correctly, Derek, Kevin and I are going to both apologize to you because you're a Bengals fan.
No, I'm a Brownies.
Oh, you're a Brownie. Well, that's even worse. So yeah, we're sorry.
Hey, I mean, they're still winning. That defense wins championships. Not again. To be honest, I love football, but my passion's college football. So obviously that's in the heat of thick of things. It's rivalry week. For the game, the Ohio State Buckeyes versus the Michigan Wolverines. So, there's a lot riding on this Saturday. So I'll be, glued to watching that on Fox on Saturday at noon. So, but yeah, no, just overall football is a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm thankful that we get to still watch it. So
just remember, every time you see Derek online, just say "Go Blue."
I don't know if you want to do that right now with all the scandal stuff going on, whether, so as cheaters. So we'll see.
Okay, guys, up next is something I'm very thankful for. Saturday morning cartoons, but specifically 1980s Saturday morning cartoons. Something that shaped me greatly, whether it was on your Saturday mornings, whether it was in syndication on maybe WGN or something like that. Transformers, G.I. Joe, Spider-Man, Thundercats, Silverhawks, Mask, so many things.
Robotech.
Yes, exactly.
I love the fact that Inspector Gadget is right in the middle, and that was one of my favorites, Kyle. That's awesome.
DuckTales. What I love, though, is getting up all those early Saturday mornings and getting that bowl of cereal, whatever it may be, whether it be Cocoa Puffs, Lucky Charms, whatever. You're trying to keep the TV down because mom and dad are still asleep, and you don't want to wake them up.
It wasn't just limited to Saturday mornings on a lot of these cartoons, though, Kyle. For me, it was after school must-see TV. And that's what I loved about it. There was something to do when you got home before, dinner later with the parents and stuff. There was like a good 2-3 hour block of these cartoons. It was great.
And let's be honest, you look at what the kids have for cartoons today, and I feel sorry for them because they just don't have they don't have the magic that we had in the 1980s.
Turtles almost made a list here. I just want to give a shout out to the Turtles. I love the Turtles.
Well, Michelangelo is in front, right behind Inspector Gadget there.
I know. He's got a little pizza there. I love that. It's great.
Okay, so Derek, what marks down as some of your favorite Saturday morning cartoons?
Well, I mean, I have to give probably my most iconic one because it was always the first thing that came on at 7 a.m. Saturday, and RIP to Paul Rubens, but Pee-wee's Playhouse. That was huge. Just because, it was a mixture of everything, but it was just, it was hilarious, right? It was just one of those things that forever, that I think of Saturday morning cartoons. That was the first thing. And back in the day, all the great stuff here. Yeah, you have Turtles, you got, the Super Mario show when you had actually,
Captain Lou.
Yeah, Captain Lou and the live action. And then on Fridays, you get actually they got, Link there because you'd actually have the Zelda episodes on Fridays. Just a lot of great stuff that, as kids that, to your comment about kids nowadays, two things. One, my daughter has no patience when it comes to commercials. Because either when you're streaming it on a platform you pay for, you don't have to worry about it for the most part, right? You might have a few at the beginning, but usually there's nothing in the middle that cuts it like every 7 to 10 minutes. Or two, if we're watching something on YouTube, after 5 seconds, or for the most part, you can hit skip, and she knows how to call it out. She's like, commercial. And I'm like, and then she's like, you could hit skip now. So it's like, come on. So sometimes I almost just make her watch the commercial.
How old is she?
She's 4.
Oh my God, that's so funny. She's got dad being the remote control. I love it.
So I'm almost to the point now, Christina and I are just like, you know what? We're just going to leave her and let her play the commercial. So sometimes I have like these 3-minute commercials on YouTube. Like, just let her watch it and see what it is. But the other thing too, you obviously had some of the very iconic shows. One of the things that made Saturday mornings great, though, was just all these one-off things that they put on, right? Like you'd have these weird shows that would do it. We had things, I mean, not necessarily they were one-offs too. And like actual universe IP things, right? Like you had Swamp Thing, you had all the different type of Ghostbusters, you had Beetlejuice, you had you know, the some of the weird things that they had, like the Cowboys of Moo Mesa or the Toxic Avenger, you know, just these one-off cartoons that you might have one or two series, or they would just go the full merchandise. Because sometimes you're thinking, they're like, what was that cartoon that I had a toy of that I used to play with? Like, I can't think of the one thing, and I could Google it, because that's a great thing. You could Google it now, trying to remember. But there was like the one thing where they had these little animal, like humanoid creature things, and they used to have these little reflective things that you put your thumb on and you'd heat it up, and when you removed it, it told you like which faction they were on. Like,
Battle Beasts.
was it Battle Beasts? And
It
then they
was
had
Battle
these like
Beasts.
little like head creature things you pull back, and it went da-da-da-da-da as it moved forward. So yeah, just crazy things, you know, that they used to do just to sell us kids merchandise or cereal or whatever else it was. But that was the blast, right? I mean, that was the thing that you could just watch literally from like, you know, or you even had like Goku for Dragon Ball, which was on like at 6 a.m. You know, from 6 to 7 was Dragon Ball and Astro Boy or Speed Racer, all those Japanese cartoons.
Yeah,
and then
all
from
of us
7
who
till
got-
noon every
all of us who
Saturday.
got exposed to anime when we had no idea what anime was.
Yeah.
So, but Kevin, you have something that I know are very thankful for, and it ties into something you were thankful for in this past year as well.
Yeah, Star Trek. I threw up Next Gen here because that is my Star Trek. I grew up, though, with my mom watching the original series. And I remember going and seeing the original films, the TOS films as well, as we kind of call them. But it was really Star Trek Next Generation 1987 that got me back into watching it weekly. And, you know, we had a good going there for a good start as the resurgence of Star Trek. And it started with Next Generation here. And then, of course, we went into Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And then in the early 2000s, we finally got Enterprise and with some next-gen movies as well. And now we have Star Trek on all the time, pretty much, with new series. And we'll get into that a little bit. But I always be forever thankful to the Star Trek fandom. We have a Union Federation podcast on the network where we cover Star Trek and the Orville. And I love doing that. Love talking Star Trek. It's been some of the best episodic television in history, especially with the topics that they cover. And I love me some TNG.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think when you talk Star Trek, for me, is this era. I mean, I liked Next Generation, but DS9 was probably my favorite of this era of Star Trek. I really liked it. But
Good stuff.
I'm going to get into Trek here shortly myself. But Derek, any thoughts on Star Trek?
I mean, yeah, it's almost like Star Wars. Where do you start, right? Same thing. I didn't get to watch the original series with my parents, like Kevin did, but TNG is what I watched with my dad. And I watched a bit of Deep Space Nine, but as a kid, it just wasn't as exciting as TNG. But as I got to be an adult here and you've been able to, you know, rewatch the stuff, Deep Space Nine is definitely my favorite. It is some of the best written stories, you know, series show ever, let alone just Star Trek. I still feel like First Contact is probably one of my top 10 movies of all time still. And then I just love watching the original motion picture movies, all 6 of them. Like I purposely bought the Blu-ray, you know, collection of 6, and I'll just sit there, you know, especially during Christmas break when I'm off, and I'll just watch one movie each day, or if I can watch a couple movies each day and just try to get through them. It's just something that, you know, holds a dear, you know, part in my heart, and what my dad and I used to do, but just great stuff. And then, yeah, you'll talk about it here a little bit, but, you know, been kind of off a little bit with the series stuff. Obviously Picard season 3 was phenomenal. But Strange New Worlds definitely has, you know, rekindled my interest. It's same thing that I mentioned earlier. That and Picard were probably the only Star Trek that in a while that I've watched and enjoyed.
I want to give a shout out to Dave here. He says y'all might like the Back of the Cereal Box podcast Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. I just went to check out the channel on iTunes and I just subscribed to them, so I'll check it out. Thank you for the suggestion there, Dave. I appreciate you.
Well, guys, next up for me, something I am thankful for, and this is going to be controversial. I can feel it coming. original streaming content. When all these streamers first started, a lot of it was, oh, I'm getting access to these things I never thought I'd get access to again, or I got free access to it again. But over time, streaming has morphed, and now original streaming content is where we are getting so many amazing things. And the reason why I'm thankful for it is because if we didn't have original streaming content, how much of these things would ever have seen the light of day and been given a chance? And that is why I'm thankful for original streaming content, whether it's Stranger Things, Ted Lasso, the phenomenal Amazon version of Jack Reacher, which December 15th, I'm there. I cannot wait. We've had some phenomenal streaming shows, obviously Disney Plus with the Marvel and Star Wars things because of how successful this has been. But yes, I am thankful for original streaming programming because I think it's changed the landscape for the better in the aspect of more things are getting a chance to get put out, Kevin.
Definitely. And there's been some wonderful stuff coming out. And the original programming is key to it. You know, I remember when HBO branched out from just doing movies, they started doing original programming. And you look at all the popular, how popular that was when they started doing that, started getting more subscriptions because people wanted to see this original programming. And that's how these streamers sell their platform is, yes, they can, you know, get licensed to, you know, re-show movies and or TV series for a limited time, but you really got to keep your viewers with original programming. And that's where things are going now. And now a lot of these streamers are not just doing these TV series, but they're also doing original films, you know?
Yeah.
And
Netflix especially.
Yeah. And so, you know, Apple's doing that as well. And of course, you know, Amazon, all the biggies. And I think that's also important as well. And so it's just giving us the only downside is the cost of streaming now. It's like becoming is if not as expensive, but more expensive than your old cable bills. So now there because there's so much competition now for you know, subscribers and streaming and stuff. So
Derek, what about you? How are you? Where do you feel as far as original streaming program goes?
I mean, the only bad part is just way too much. I can't watch it all. That's the problem, right? But no, I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, the things that we would get, quote unquote, as original content back in the day of public television or cable TV, right, would be quote unquote a limited series event of Stephen King stuff, right? Those are the types of things that we would get. Or once in a while, like some of your oddball cable shows, not so more because they made their names on it, was like AMC, right? With Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead. Think about it, right? That was stuff that they took risks on. You know, Kevin's point about HBO has been doing this for years, right? I mean, Sopranos and Game of Thrones and all that stuff that they did. That was original, you know, series, but obviously you had to pay for it, quote unquote, right? Netflix just took it to the extreme with all that they do, to the point now, which I haven't owned cable now for 3 years, other than, you know, the internet stuff, to your point, because, you know, sports, you know, I can go to the bar or just get the stuff that I can on Fox or CBS, NBC. But you know, for the most part, all your cable companies are now releasing exclusive content for them too, right? Because they have to compete with original content. So it's, you know, some of the shows that they come out with now, I don't know where some of those are because, you know, none of the Netflixes or anything like that's picking them up. So I don't know if there's any good shows. I know Spectrum was doing some stuff of original content a few years ago when they were trying to break into it. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It just sucks that some of the great stuff that I enjoy, they're, you know, not renewing it. So it makes me upset. Specifically like the Dark Crystal or the Cowboy Bebop live action. You know, I want season 2 at least. At least give me a complete
Me too.
story before you cut the head off. But yeah, I mean, obviously I'm thankful because again, it's the same thing, right? There's a lot of the crap that they put out there. There's, you know, a lot of good stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, next up, Kevin, I'm feeling like I need to fight for some freedom here. I'm feeling that urge because your next thing that you are thankful for is something I'm also very thankful for.
Who knew back in 1982, going up and making a candy and soda run, the comic book spindle at my local 7-Eleven right up the street here, now that I'm back in California in Santa Barbara, I saw this issue GI Joe and I picked it up. I wanted something that was not superhero, and I got that. And then it turned into, of course, the cartoon series, the toys, and so on and so forth. And of course, in the '90s, I discovered girls and bands and got out of it for a while. But then nostalgia pulls me back in. And Kyle, that same Dragon Con 2015 was also the year that me and two co-host of the Star Wars What a Piece of Junk podcast, that would be, of course, Nathan and Scott, we decided to do some GI Joe cosplay. Like, we wanted to do some like lower tier cosplay characters, and that led to me getting part of the finest GI Joe costume group. That led me of course getting deeper into going back and collecting some stuff I missed. And I still have my original GI Joe Marvel run, and I want to give a shout out to my good friend Aaron Head Moss, who does a wonderful podcast called the GI Joe, A Real American Headcast. And it was his podcast that kind of helped fuel that love for GI Joe again. I've been a constant contributor guest on his podcast as he covers the original Marvel run of GI Joe, and then he does a cartoon, half-hour cartoon on the same podcast. And he and I actually met for the first time just about a month ago. We both live in California, but we're kind of far away from each other. And he came up to my hometown. We met and had some dinner, and I met his family. It was great. And love the cartoon series, and of course the cosplay. I'm Major Blood in that picture right there. But we did get at least one good GI Joe live action movie. That's Retaliation. So I'm going to give a shout out there. But I love the GI Joe costume community as well. I have some dear friends I have met through that. And so, yeah, GI Joe, Yo Joe.
Always one of the two or three toy lines that really shaped me. I had GI Joes all over the place growing up. The cartoon, the movies, everything GI Joe, and with its resurgence here in the last few years with the GI Joe Classified toy line, what Super 7 is doing with GI Joe right now. It's just great to see it resurge. And of course, I'd be remiss too if we didn't mention that how thankful we are for the creator of GI Joe, one Mr. Larry Hama. Without him,
yes,
he is the god of GI Joe, and a phenomenal person, and just a guy who has stuck with this property through thick and thin. And there's been some rough times for GI Joe over the years, but he when you think GI Joe, if you don't think of Larry Hama, you're not a GI Joe fan.
Yep.
So, Derek, I know you had to have owned a few GI Joes when you were a kid.
Honestly, gents, I did not. GI Joe was probably one that I just really couldn't get myself into. I mean, I watched it from time to time, but I don't know, for whatever reason, real action characters, that were just, not super powered as much as the next, or a mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever it was. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. There's just, I guess it came out in '82 in the comics, and then the cartoon would have been just right after that. But I don't know, just never something that I took off with me as a kid. So unfortunately, I can't contribute much on this one.
That is quite all right, sir. Up next for me, though, guys, it's something I am very thankful for, and I'm going to keep it simple. It's the lightsaber, a delicate weapon from a more civilized age. Let's be honest. The lightsaber is the greatest weapon creation in the history of science fiction, because we all owned a lightsaber, whether it looked like a paper towel roll or something else.
Mine was a broomstick that I took electrical tape and taped around the color that I wanted to have my lightsaber. That was my first lightsaber. My mom was not happy that I cut the mop up, but that was my lightsaber.
But let's be honest, for all the cool weapons that have been there throughout the years, you always go back to the true and faithful, the lightsaber, Kevin.
Who's your favorite lightsaber, Kyle? Which one's your favorite?
You know what? I'm a real fan of Ahsoka Tano's two lightsabers, and I've always liked Kanan Jarrus's lightsaber.
I don't remember that one.
You kind of had you take it apart and put it together.
Okay, gotcha. Kyle, or no, Derek, which one's your favorite?
I got a couple. Obviously, I like Luke Skywalker's when he's a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
You know, that was really sharp looking. It was just simple and all that, right? But then we've got a lot of cool things. So when I went to Disney a month ago, I've done this back in COVID. I did the whole build your own lightsaber thing.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And I got to do that. But this time I went ahead and splurged a little bit. So it was one of two things. And I will probably make Mr. Kyle a little bit jealous, unless if he bought one himself already.
Nice.
Oh, no, I have not.
Sokatano double blades.
The double bladed
Nice.
one. So yeah, I haven't opened it
Yeah.
yet. Because I haven't decided how I want to do it. If I want to keep it mint in box or if I want to display them at some point. But it was either between that or the dark
display.
So
I want to give a shout out to Count Dooku's curved hilt. I love the look of that thing with the little hook thing on the end. That thing is just gorgeous.
yeah, it's really cool because it really worked well too, the way he was holding it, right? Almost like a lance almost,
Yeah.
versus rather than a actual hilt of a sword. So
Yeah.
very cool.
Kevin, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about hot tub time machines?
The best time machine of all time, not the DeLorean, it's the hot tub time machine. Yes. So yeah, my choice is 80s and 90s movies. They have really defined my fandom over the last 20 years. Because and a lot has to do with this network, Kyle, that we have been able to go back and celebrate 80s and 90s films. And one of my passion projects on this network is Time Warp, where one of the main shows on Time Warp is where we look back at an entire year of movies and celebrate it. And lately we've been doing the 40th anniversary versions of these years. And this year we're ending 1983. And we talk about all the pop culture in between as well. We handle them a month or a couple months at a time. And of course, our wonderful contributor, Lacey Adderhold, the queen of movie foo, co-hosts that with us as well. But it's built this wonderful collection of physical media behind me as well. And the 80s and 90s for me really defined my movie fandom. There is so many iconic films out of those two decades that have left an imprint forever. And we kind of joke around with this, Kyle, because we listen to the rewatchables on the Ringer Network because they look back on films and do things. And, you know, a lot of cocaine was probably involved when it came to the 80s and some of the 90s with some of those producers and stuff like that. But 80s, starting in the 70s too, they started really taking chances with stuff. And some of these films, of course, you probably can't make anymore. And I'm, you know, in a way, I'm kind of grateful because we still have those and they feel so 80s. And I just love the genre and the time that these films were made. And I have a lot of wonderful personal memories because of these films. You know, Pulp Fiction, I remember because that's when it opened my eyes to the art of the script. And, you know, when it came to other films as well, I remember RoboCop was the movie that desensitized me to movie and TV violence. You know, there's certain movies that I will always remember for certain reasons. And I have always been a movie guy. I used to go in and pay for one movie and sneak into a bunch of other ones. That's how I saw Star Wars so many times in the theaters. Of course, it was, you know, as rigidly enforced back in those days as it is now, of course. But I love the fact that I get to share that fandom with others here on the Fandom Podcast Network through the Time Warp thing as well. And just recently, we did a special on Buffy and looked at that entire series because my wife is the biggest Buffy fan. And Lacey was on there with you as well, Kyle. So check out the network for the Time Warp. And I'm not just here to push Time Warp in our network, but 80s and 90s films really, really shaped my fandom. And I'm glad that I get to express that here on the Fandom Podcast Network and you know, share my love for physical media as well.
Yeah. When we started the network, Kevin and I learned real quickly one of the things we were going to bond over very quickly was our love of movies.
Yes.
I think because of where I grew up in Alaska with the isolation there, I had very understanding parents who probably let me see a few too many movies that I shouldn't see, and they didn't let me see them. My grandmother for sure let me watch them when
I
I
wish
was
I
a
could have
kid.
met you. I wish I could have met your grandmother, man.
Yeah, I mean I am a movie buff, and I'm not even gonna lie about it. I have seen so many movies. I have a huge digital collection of movies, just and I've just if it's a lot of HBO when it's 60 below outside. That's what I'm gonna say too. A lot of trips to Blockbuster Video or your local video store. And I've always loved the movie experience. I love getting lost in the movie experience and just forgetting what's the reality is in that aspect, and to have that escape for a few hours and just enjoying and understanding all the aspects that go into making a movie. So yeah, I'm with you for that. Just thankful, and especially for the 80s and 90s films, because that's what I grew up on. And as much as I love the modern things too, the 80s and 90s films are always, especially the 80s films, are always going to have a very special spot for me that I will always be glad to go revisit. Mr. Marsh.
Well, I mean, I was born in '83, so what better way could you say? But no,
Whoa. That means you are 40.
I am 40. I hit the big 40 this year. So.
Welcome to the club. It's about time.
Yeah, the only one left we still have to do is Nathan. He's still got a couple more years. So
He's a baby.
But no, the biggest thing too about old movies, as I could say, right, is the practical effects, right? I mean, and it's great that people are nowadays doing it again because especially during the 2000s, and even to some degree to today's, that CGI just. Obviously, if it's a Pixar movie, okay, I'm expecting it to be CGI. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, kudos to Lucasfilm and art and what they're doing in the studios. And sometimes, they're able to do what they are, able to do pre-COVID. Post-COVID, it's been a little rough here and there with some of the animation places. But just overall. But I will tell you one thing that has really suffered, especially since the 80s. 90s had some pretty good, but it was definitely a little bit harder. But they just don't make comedies like they used to. Is it just me?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
You're muted, Kyle.
I think that's just a project of the world and how we are today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you think about some of the movies that came out pre-2000 or post-2000, like you had Hot Tub Time Machine, you had the Hangover series, you have Superbad, and
none of those get made today.
Well, yeah, Tropic Thunder is not going to get made today either, right? So, but even then, I mean, there's some out there, right? I mean, you haven't seen Will Ferrell in the 2000s had some phenomenal movies, but and even Adam Sandler, right? But his was mostly 90s too, right? If you think about that. So, but I don't know, but even like today's stuff, like you just don't have like Caddyshack, you don't have Stripes, you don't have even like Ghostbusters. I mean, yes, that is, but that's still a comedy to me, and it's just, you just don't hit that anymore. And it's like, is it just because the writing? I could see to some degree, Kyle point, the political correctness of today's world, but even then, Big Trouble in Little China, but there's just nothing out there that comedy just seems to hit, where we hit like at least every year there was 2 or 3 good comedies, right? Obviously you don't have people like Robin Williams out there anymore doing the things that he was doing. I mean, a lot of these people like Dave Chappelle had some great stuff, but he never went back to the movies because, he had a couple things that bombed. I love watching, and maybe it's stupid comedy, yes, granted, but I like rewatching, because I follow him on Facebook, is Pauly Shore and his resurgence and stuff like that, and all the movies that we used to watch as kids in the 90s, right, on the MTV era, right? But nowadays it's like, I don't know.
I think all good points there, but I just give me those all day long, and I'm a happy camper. But speaking of things that make me a happy camper, something I'm very thankful for is Strange New Worlds. Now, I've always been a Star Trek fan. It's never been like the number one thing for me. I enjoy it. It's been good. I'll be honest with you. I was at a point with the new Trek, starting with Discovery, where I was just like, okay, I'm getting pretty much done with this. Lower Decks is fun. A few things here. Discovery was just driving me bonkers. I just wasn't feeling the direction. And then Strange New Worlds came out. And I think I can say in confidence, Strange New Worlds has become my favorite Star Trek show. I love the cast. I love what they do with it and how they pay tribute.
You
to
love
things.
Nurse Chapel. Just say it. Come on.
Oh, that too. Yeah. But too, I mean, Anson Mount as Captain Pike is redefining Star Trek in a way, and just bringing something to it. Ethan Peck has been an incredible addition to the Spock legacy, and just how the show is visually storytelling wise, how it's pertinent and what it's not afraid to take risks, and what it does for Star Trek, I think is the best thing for Star Trek since J.J. Abrams did what he did with the relaunch of the Trek films back in the day. I think the show has energy. It's the first Star Trek I really truly feel like I'm excited for every week when it's coming out, and I want to make sure I see it on the night it is coming out. And so, Strange New Worlds, I am incredibly thankful for it, Kevin.
Yeah. It's been. We've always liked it too because it's returned to episodic television.
Yes,
but still, they have stuff that goes from episode to episode. But we don't have this one like big bad that we have to worry about whether or not they land it at the end of the series or into the season, like Discovery was, and
or even Picard.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course the crossover with Lower Decks was so much fun.
Yes, it was.
Or the singing episode. I loved how they made it scientific. Like, this is the reason why we're all singing.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm with you guys, but it's and again, I haven't watched Discovery. I watched the first 2 episodes, and after that, I was like, they're gonna have to do something to bring me back in because I've never watched any more of it. And from what people tell me, I'm kind of like Game of Thrones, where it's like, yeah, I've never finished it because where they've gone with it has just been bleh. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time. If, to Kevin's point, talk about landing at the end of the season, you don't even land it in the season series finale, then that's even worse, right? When you have these shows that just really leave a bad taste in your mouth after you spend all these years watching it. So I'm with you guys though. Episodic is great. But it's some heavy episodes. The one, I don't remember the name of the episode, but the one about the Butcher of Tagal was that was phenomenal. That is probably, that to me was like, that's like Deep Space Nine writing right there. and that's high praise coming from me there. So that's the kind of stuff that I like, where it's like, yeah, you can go from one thing to the next. It's episodic. You do have this overarching. I will say my one gripe, and we made fun of it. I think we were floating some pictures around back when season 2 was doing it. They got to get James Kirk off this though. I don't need all this fan service. Like, it's fun to have, Spock, and it makes sense because he was there with Pike and number 1, but get the, and we got Scotty will eventually be on there, like, cause he's obviously made it, and we'll get Sulu at some point and all this stuff. I get that, but get Kirk off here. Just give me Pike. Let that go. I don't need this like, ooh, here's a tease, Kirk is someday going to take over the ship. Well, we know that. We don't need anything other than maybe at the end when, they actually have the episode where, Pike and Kirk hand each other the reins. Other than that, I don't need Kirk.
I think that's fair. But speaking of space exploration, there is a show that has hit some and is going through quite a history in its own right of survival, but a show that actually filled the Trek void when the Trek void wasn't getting filled by Star Trek. And it is a show that I'm very thankful for, but I know Mr. Reitzel is incredibly thankful for it. The Orville.
Yeah. Who knew Seth MacFarlane would pull this together and be the big Trek fan that he is? And, we always talked about how, we felt like it was going to be, Family Guy in space and stuff like that. And it was going to be, people thought it was going to be a parody, but That's not what happened. And, yes, there's some jokey moments from time to time, but, starting even in the first season, they really handled some heavy topics and have been doing so throughout the entire series. And he's created quite a crew and a cast here, and a world building series that have really, obviously, Star Trek inspired, probably more specifically TNG. And of course, we've had some TNG and other Star Trek alumni guest star in this series. But he's done a really good job of creating some very controversial and timely themed. And we've had a fun job podcasting about the Orville on the Union Federation podcast, but also making some wonderful connections to Next Generation and other Star Trek episodes. And I also got a little Orville cosplay going on. I got my own Admiral's uniform and part of a group that we started at Dragon Con. And I'm hoping season 3 will come out on officially on physical media. And I hope that we get some news, maybe now that the strike's over, whether or not they're going to continue with maybe a season 4. I know that Seth MacFarlane wants to do it, but now it's in the hands of Disney. So I don't think it's going to happen, but at least we got 3 seasons of it. And I love the way that season 3 ended, if that is the final thing. But I would love to at least maybe get a movie in the future. It would be nice. So we'll see.
I find it interesting here. Dave Mattingly's favorite episode of the Orville might be the one that you dislike the most, Kevin, because clowns.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode though. It was creepy, but yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
The Orville is one of the biggest surprises I've had in fandom in a very long time. I did not think Seth MacFarlane had this in him, and I think it is his masterpiece of his career to this point. And I give him and the cast all the credit in the world, because I think that they have been so universally accepted, and the show is too good to stop. And I really hope by some miracle it's brought at least for one more season. But even if we get a movie, something, do not let the Orville die. It is phenomenal, and it is not what you think it would be because it's Seth MacFarlane. It will genuinely surprise you, genuinely make you think, and genuinely give you just some of the best science fiction television we've had in the last 15 years. So, yeah, that's kind of my feelings on the Orville. What about you, Derek? Have you experienced the Orville?
So Christina has the nostalgic for Star Trek, The Next Generation, because just like I mentioned before, that was one of the things that we both watched with our fathers. Now Christina's father's still around and stuff like that, but that brings nostalgic to her. So we started watching the Orville when it first premiered. And it was on demand at that point, right? You could watch it a couple of days later, a week later, right? So, because we couldn't always sit there, because the hardest part is that, and I appreciate it, they're 40, 50 some minute episodes, right? Because it's made for television at the first 2 seasons. But then the problem is that Christina just has struggle watching anything more than 30 minutes, or it's a slow drip. So we've gotten through, like I said, the first half of season 1. And then we kind of lost interest in it for a little bit because other things came up in life, and we just haven't picked it back up. But I'm almost at the point now, it's like, okay, I'm just going to start binging it because I do want to watch it. I did enjoy it. I agree with you guys. It felt like actual Trek when we didn't have Trek at the time. Kudos to Seth to not make it all a bunch of fart jokes and all that. Oh, sounds like Kevin dropped something.
I dropped a lightsaber. Sorry.
Oh no. The one you got from the Ahsoka event.
Yeah, the Ahsoka premiere, yep.
So, no, just overall, I want to pick it back up. So,
well, for me, the last thing on my list this year that I am thankful for, and Derek, I know you will have a great appreciation of this, Hayao Miyazaki, the Walt Disney of Japan. I'm a huge anime fan. Always have been. I've always preferred a lot of times Japanese animation to American animation. This man is a genius, and his films are touching, from whether they're science fiction to slice of life to history. They are visually spectacular. They are heartwarming, and they are also incredibly intelligent, and they make you think. And he always has a way of taking you to the world he creates in his films like no other person I've ever seen in animation. And yeah, he is thankfully unretired and has a new film coming out in just a couple of short weeks, which I am very excited for. But I mean, whether it's Nausicaa, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, these are some of the most special films out there. And I'm going to tell anybody, if you are a parent, sit with your kids and watch these films. Some of them are, you need to wait till your kids are a little older, but these are amazing films and should be experienced by everybody, Derek.
Yeah. My favorite of his is Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. Just phenomenal. That was actually my true introduction to Miyazaki. Then followed up by Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, all the stuff that was coming out in the late 90s, early 2000s with all that. I've actually gotten my daughter, Sophia, she has watched Kiki's Delivery Service twice. It's been, first time was kind of, just she watched it, but we watched it again earlier this year, and she knows of it. So some of the others, to your point, right, it's probably still a little bit above at where she's at. Maybe I could do Totoro or maybe Ponyo, but I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see, because again, it's animation, but it's the same thing I've told people about like Clone Wars and Rebels. It's a cartoon, but it's written for adults, right? And some of the things here, it's very much written for kids, but a lot of times there's just a lot of deeper meaning in Miyazaki's work and what it is here. So that's the hard part, but sometimes you have to be careful which ones you want to have your kids watch depending on their age. But yeah, I would agree with you. Definitely over the past 20 years plus, since I've been watching anime for 30 some years now at this point, but definitely with the introduction to Miyazaki in America has been wonderful.
Now, Kevin, I know you're not as a big a fan of animated films, but I know your daughter, having a daughter, and I know some of her interests. Did you ever watch any of the Miyazaki films?
I saw Princess Mononoke years ago, but the movie, I think my daughter's seen a couple of these without me, but the one that we saw together for the first time was Spirited Away. And we had an enjoyable time doing it. I like the fact that when everyone's cosplaying Mr. No Face, he's got free candy. It's great. But yeah, that was the only one that I remember watching together with her. And but we did enjoy it.
Right. He is a master, and so I am very thankful for what he has brought into my world. But lastly, Kevin, you have up something I'm very thankful for it, and I know you've been going through your rewatch as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be specific right now. It's the Infinity Saga MCU. I am so thankful for this theatrical experience along with the Disney Plus TV series. But specifically, I'm just going to throw out the movies as I've been doing a rewatch right now. I'm just about to start Thor: The Dark World. This, being someone who never followed these on the comics and stuff, I dove into the movies, and I really love the connective tissue between all of these. And I watched Hulk again recently, and I actually enjoyed it more than the last time that I watched it. I love the MCU for so many reasons. I love the fact that it brought me to the theater to see these on opening weekend for each and every single one of these. And I love the cast, and the Infinity Saga was such a wonderful buildup, and did not disappoint with Endgame.
The Infinity Saga is a grand experiment that we will never see the likes of again, and never will be properly replicated. A lot have tried because it's Hollywood and they have to jump on every idea. But to do what these creators did, along with Kevin Feige shepherding everything, is one of the greatest achievements in cinema history. And also to get these characters that, let's be honest, we never thought we'd see real, true, comic accurate versions of these characters on screen. Whenever they've tried, it's been rough. And they not only did it, they did it spectacularly, and is for me one of the greatest things in film that's ever been done, and one of the greatest accomplishments in films that's ever been done. So yes, I am so thankful for the Infinity Saga. They've got some work to do what they're doing right now, but I still have faith in them because if you can do this, you can do a lot of stuff. But Derek, I know you're a fan.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say, and technically, I guess it's technically missing the second Spider-Man, because that was technically the cap of this phase, because there was 23 movies. But outside of that, you would say there's probably 2 movies out of this that were quote unquote misses to some degree. Not that they were terrible, but obviously Thor 2 and Iron Man 2 would probably be the ones that were quite the misses. But to think about that, to be 21 out of 23 movies, to hit all cylinders, right, and to just be phenomenal, and the stuff that we've had post, right, we've, again, same thing that I said about Star Wars. I'd rather have some misses and still have home runs than not have anything at all. Because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten some of the great stuff that we gotten, especially like with Spider-Man No Way Home. Because I would put No Way Home probably up against almost every movie here, outside of probably obviously Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Civil War, Doctor Strange 2, and then I'd probably say No Way Home would probably be my top 5. So
Dave Mattingly is asking, what's your favorite MCU movie? Pick one.
it'd be Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I'd say Winter Soldier, but then I go to Endgame because it just, I love Endgame so much. But yeah, Winter Soldier, it's so good.
Yeah, Winter Soldier and Infinity War for me because it's the ESB of the MCU. So
yeah.
Well, and just that Endgame's up there. Just the emotional impacts of Endgame.
Oh, the last
45 minutes of Endgame is just magic.
Lights out, man. Lights out.
Yeah, that I've watched that, just that fight scene and the whole ensemble. Probably, I watch it at least probably 10 times a year. Just that 20 minutes of them, after they resummon and to the point of the end there. So
yeah. Well, with that, guys, that's going to finish up our list of everything that we are thankful for. The Magic 8 Ball is more than happy. We know we've run long, but we got one little thing we're going to hit a little bit here because we have a couple things we've seen. It's time to
buy it, stream it, or unsee it.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep mine kind of short and sweet, but before we get into buy it, stream it, or unsee it, Kevin, I think you might need to hit a button.
I don't know what I'm hitting. Kyle, you caught me off guard.
I'm sorry. But there's only one button that Kevin truly loves to hit.
I'm not going to get spoilery if that's what you're getting at.
Well, no, but I would like for you to hit the button because I need to address something.
Okay. All right. Hold on.
Okay, so spoiler alerts, ahoy. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the first 2 episodes of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Of course, these shows spinning out of the legendary Godzilla monster universe. First 2 episodes are great. Kurt Russell, you see in it. Wyatt Russell is phenomenal in it. The cast is phenomenal in this. But one of the things I want to say here is if you are going to watch this show, you need to have probably watched at least the original Godzilla film and Kong Skull Island, because there is a lot of references to things in those 2 films. And I think it would really clear up some things for you. But the great thing about these first 2 episodes is they are building a mystery. It's kind of, some people are there's some time jumps that people kind of are getting thrown off by, but they are building this world and building it up. And Legendary has big plans for this world. And with that, be tied in with Apple TV Plus, and to have something of this quality, because this is movie quality. This show is movie quality. I think there's going to be 10 episodes altogether in this. I'm going to be planning on covering it as we go along. But these first 2 episodes, without really only seeing Godzilla, except for flashes from and cuts from the original Godzilla film from 2014, is still just It's got you on the edge of your seat. It's got you wondering what the hell is going on and which direction it's going to take.
How long is the season, Kyle? Do you know?
I think it's 10 episodes.
Okay.
And it comes out Wednesdays. The first 2 episodes have come out. The next episode will be this Wednesday. But this has been really enjoyable.
And how long are the episodes?
They're running about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
So they're running at a good runtime, and I've really enjoyed what they've done so far. Derek, I know you're a big kaiju fan. I know you're excited for this show. I know you haven't watched it yet, but how high is your anticipation level?
Well, obviously when they announced it, it was kind of like, okay, we'll see where this goes. But when they actually showed, Russell on the trailer, right, I was like, okay, I'm in. You've got me interested, right? So let me watch this because I love Kurt Russell, and we'll go from there. But I'm excited, right? Like I said, I'll obviously if the episode 3 is coming out tomorrow, I'll probably hit the first episode tomorrow night, and try to watch a little bit over the next 3 days, or 3 episodes over the next 5 days. So
the one thing I'll say on this real quick too, Kevin, especially for you, I think this might be Wyatt Russell's best performance to date.
Good to hear. I like it, and he's playing a younger version of Kurt, right? Is that what
correct?
It is?
He's playing a younger version.
Perfect.
The version he's playing takes place probably around the time of Skull Island, or a little bit before that work. So,
cool.
It is phenomenal. But
I do want to see Kong Skull Island again. That was a good movie. I did enjoy that one.
Yeah. Now, that's kind of what I've seen. I'll have a lot more as we get into the next few weeks of Culture Clash. But Kevin, you recently went to the movie.
Yes, I am a Hunger Games fan. I just recently did a little marathon of the original 4 movie Hunger Games films. And I was very curious about this prequel set about 70 years before the original film. And this is where we see a younger President Snow. I'm forgetting his first name in this, but we see him as a young up-and-coming kind of political figure along kind of think of the people that he's going to school with in this university that they're going to be influential people in the world of Panem, basically. And this is where the Hunger Games, you get a little prequel to before the Hunger Games start when he's a kid. But when he comes into this story as his up-and-coming, I guess you would call it his going into collegiate year, so to speak, the way the schooling is. The Hunger Games are around 10 years old right now. And what's really fascinating about this series, this movie, is the way they've made it feel like it was 70 years prequel. Because when we see the original Hunger Games, we see the technology and the stuff that's used. Well, in this one, they really do a fantastic job of making it feel like it's 70 years ago. The technology kind of feels like out of like the late 50s and 60s for us a little bit, especially with some of like the TV and the cars and stuff like that, and the weaponry and what the peacekeepers look like back, before we see them in the original series. And apparently this whole series, this movie was all filmed in like Poland and in Romania and stuff. So they really picked some really cool locations for this. But what's interesting about this is that they need to get people to watch the games. People have stopped watching them. And so when you see what happens to Jennifer's character, Katniss Everdeen, how you have, what's his name? Woody Harrelson's character showing him how to be likable. So people will watch and root for you and send you stuff during the games to help you survive. The trick is getting people to watch this. And what happens is young Snow is drafted to basically take this woman from District 12 to guide her, to make her become likable. But what's funny is like the first Hunger Games, it doesn't have like all of the fancy game stuff that's going on. They're basically thrown into one like pit arena area.
and forced to fight in just that area. It's not as high tech as you see it, but it creates a lot of drama, especially when these people have to kind of sponsor these tributes. And it gets really fascinating because the movie takes a turn because of what happens to Snow's character. It's just not about the actual fighting in the Hunger Games. It's the turn that he takes when he becomes a peacekeeper soldier. And it takes a very interesting turn. And it was better than I thought it was going to be. It's a little long. It's about 2 hours and like 35 minutes. But I did enjoy it. There's a lot of good drama in it, and it definitely have a Hunger Games feel. And I do recommend it. It's definitely a buy it and see it for me, specifically for the setting and everything like that. And it had some really good cast members in it. But it is dark. It is bloody. It takes turns, but I found it very fascinating because you get to see Panem before it becomes this huge, majestic looking city. It's like on the rise of being built. You see buildings being like half built, and you see it kind of slowly going up, and then you see Snow's rise to power at a young level. And I'm forgetting the woman that played. She's like the gamekeeper. She was the African American woman, Kyle, that was in Amanda Waller. What's that actress's name?
Oh, Viola Davis.
Yes, she's like the lead gamekeeper. She's the one that drafts these people to like bring these people to help bring the tributes to be likable and such. And she is like vicious.
Oh, there's a reason why she's so good as Amanda Waller.
Yeah, she's got the power. It's fascinating. So yeah.
Kevin, you got one more thing to talk about real quick here. It's on in that streaming service, Sheridan Plus.
Yes, Paramount Plus has got a new series called Lawman Bass Reeves, and I decided to dive into it because Tyler Sheridan, of course, famous for 1883 and Yellowstone and such, is one of the producers. And I'm a big Western fan, and this is based on an actual character that I thought was fascinating. And it's about a legendary lawman, Bass Reeves, one of the greatest frontier heroes and one of the first Black deputy U.S. Marshals west of the Mississippi. And you get a little backstory. He is a slave to a Confederate soldier, and he has to fight with the Confederates against the North. And you see how he gets out of that and how he starts a family, and then how he ends up becoming a lawman. And thanks to Dennis Quaid, who has a few moments here, as well as, of course, Donald Sutherland is in this as well.
Are we sure this isn't a sequel to The Hunger Games?
No. Based on a true story. And I've watched the first 3 episodes, and I am hooked. It's done really, really well.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this, actually.
By the way, that is the original lawman Bass Reeves. I have a picture of right there that it's based on. So there you go.
I was going to say, I'm a little upset that they didn't go quite the full mustache on the actor. I really
maybe that's when he retired. I don't know, but yeah, you went
maybe
there. But you get appearances by Barry Pepper, of course. Garrett Hedlund has a episode in there as well. Yeah, so highly recommend it.
Timothy Olyphant make a cameo yet or no?
Nah, no.
Well, with that, guys, we are going to wrap up this special Thanksgiving edition of Culture Clash. We know we ran a little long, but I just want to thank everybody in the chat who has joined us and contributed and told us what they're thankful for. And of course,
thank you guys. Appreciate you.
I'm also thankful for the 2 gentlemen who joined me on this podcast. Derek, you hopped in kind of last minute. I know that Drunken Gungans Triple Park has probably got a few more parking tickets on it. I'll try to square.
You don't valet? What?
Yeah, yeah, we don't register your chip either. So, but thank you. And as you guys we're thankful for everything you and Scott and Nathan do over at One Piece of Junk here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And so thank you, Kevin. You are my brother from another mother.
Appreciate you, dude.
Ride I am thankful for. And as far as everybody else out there, we're thankful for you. You can, of course, find the Fandom Podcast Network on so many different things, including YouTube. If you're watching live, please like, subscribe, share out. We're trying to grow our YouTube
as well as our podcasting presence, which of course starts at fpnet.podbean.com, the home of our master feed. But you can find all of the great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network on all of your major podcast catchers, whether it's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, so many others out there. You can, of course, visit the Fandom Podcast Network Facebook page. Find us on X, Twitter, or whatever it's going to be tomorrow at FanPod Network. We're also on Instagram and Threads at Fandom Podcast Network. You can find myself, Kyle, on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you on the social media?
Threads, X, Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix.
Derek, do you even have time for social media these days?
I scroll through the Facebook and like everybody's thing about it and send you guys funny things when I find it. That's about it. No, you can find me on Facebook under my real name, Derek Marsh, where then you can also like us on the What a Piece of Junk Star Wars podcast Facebook group. That's where you'll see us post a lot of stuff. And then find me over there. Or you can hit us up with questions at What Wars for those that want to use X, Twix, Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
With that, guys, thank you for being with us on this whole show. If you're listening to this on a podcast or watching this
thanks to David, Dave, and several of the other guys that showed up there. Thank you guys so much for doing the chat. Appreciate you. Thank you, Joseph.
And if you're listening on podcast or watching this on YouTube, thank you for giving us the time in your day. And we know how valuable and important that is, and we thank you for it so very much. But with that, guys, it is time to wrap things up. So, as always, first and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Be safe this holiday weekend. And whether it's Thanksgiving or not, we live by the mantra: be excellent to each other, respect each other, and most importantly, enjoy your fandom. And a xenomorph.